Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled parent stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Ex-wife keeps using a bank account she's not supposed to access. After that, keep bowling. The pro shop will fix it? Okay. And after that, am I the jerk for not paying half of my boyfriend's rent and bills? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to access anyone else's bank account. Oh, I'll find a way, Reddit boy. I always do. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Ex-wife keeps using a bank account she's not supposed to access. So, I worked at a small community bank for a time as a banker, opening and closing accounts, completing paperwork, etc. This occurred shortly after we opened our doors again after lockdown. An older gentleman, who we'll call Jim, came in on a random Monday and asked to speak with a banker. I was available and invited him into my office. Once inside, he related that he and his wife, who we'll call Karen, were going through a divorce. Jim expressed that Karen had full control over the finances to the point where he didn't even have a checkbook or a debit card for the accounts, even though one of the accounts was solely funded by his pension checks. He then informed me that he had come in to check if Karen had been writing checks off of the account, as he had a copy of a legal document she had signed stating that she would only be writing checks off of the account for necessities up until a certain date, which happened to be 3 weeks prior to Jim coming in. After ascertaining that he was whom he said he was, checking his ID, I pulled up the account in question. Since only Karen had checks for the account, we could track and view a photocopy of each written check that had been cashed. We discovered that she had continued to spend not only past the date that she was supposed to stop, but she had also been writing checks for non-essentials, also a no-no. Jim then tells me that he was suspicious that this would happen because when they began the divorce process, she had taken half of the money out of the account and was forced to put it back. I could see the transactions in the account history, so he wasn't lying. He then asks me what we can do to ensure that she cannot touch his money. I told him that since she has the checkbook for the account, taking her off of the account wouldn't guarantee she couldn't touch it. The only option would be for him to close the account and open a new account with only him on it. He decided that he wanted to do that, so we did just that. After he leaves, I continue on with my day, updating my supervisor on the situation due to how strange everything was. Well, a few hours later, Karen, whom I've never met before, storms in and demands to speak with a supervisor. My boss takes her into her office, and what I was told later was that Karen was demanding I be fired because I was talking badly about her, lie, and that I closed her checking account without calling her to get her consent. My manager explained to her that our policy with joint accounts is that either party on the account can close the account without the other party's consent. She also assured Karen that I would never talk badly about anyone, especially someone that I've never met. Mind you, my boss's office is next to mine, with extremely thin walls, so she would have been able to hear if I was talking badly about her. She ended up storming out angrily after giving me the stink eye. Keep bowling. The pro shop will fix it? Okay. I had forgotten about this until recently and thought I would share. I think it fits in here. It isn't a huge thing, but it resulted in me getting something I wanted but couldn't afford and then winning money with it. When I was younger and through my early to mid-adult years, I was an avid bowler. 200 plus average back when that actually meant you were good, before the bowling ball technology boom, which comes into play here. And I worked at the local bowling center from the time I was 16 through 21 or so, and then again later on in my early 20s, working the back, pin setters, front of the house, etc. So I knew how things operated, what could go wrong, etc. I was bowling at a different center one day. The first frame, after each shot, my ball came back with a small nick out of it. Nothing major, but yeah. So I put that ball away and brought out an old ball that I never used, but was in one of my bags. Next 2 or 3 shots, another nick each time. Fourth frame, it finally came back with a fairly large chunk taken out of it. Usually that means there is a nail or a screw that has worked its way loose and the ball is catching on it, or a piece of metal has broken near the ball lift and it's cutting into it. I take the ball up to the counter and tell the manager and show him what had happened. Now, I was only 4 frames into the game and said I would move, and he said no. They couldn't move me as they had a party coming in and no lanes available. He said just keep bowling and the pro shop will repair the ball. I asked if he was sure. He said yup, he will go in and tell them to fix it and the center would pay for it. Most pro shops are individually owned and operated. The owner rents the space from the center. This was no exception. Now, having done simple pro shop work, I know for a fact that there is no way it can be fixed if I keep bowling with it, and this keeps happening. One gouge can be repaired fairly easily as long as it's not in the track of the ball. The track is the contact point where your ball rolls down the lane, so anything in that line just can't be fixed, and it will throw off the ball as it rolls since it can't be perfectly rounded back. Depending on the core of the ball and how you throw it, the track can be 3 to 4 inches wide as the ball flares going down the lane. But massive multiple gouges all over the place? Nope. So I keep bowling. 2 or 3 games, knowing that I'm getting a new bowling ball out of this. Of course, the huge chunks keep coming out of the ball. I get finished, and there probably isn't a 2-inch by 2-inch section of the ball that isn't damaged. I take the ball into the pro shop, and the conversation goes, Pro shop guy, what the heck happened to this ball? Did it get hung up in the pin setter or something? Me, the lane I was on damaged it each time I threw it. The manager said you would fix it. Pro shop guy, why did you keep bowling? I can't fix this. Me, the manager told me to keep bowling after I showed him the first gouge. Pro shop guy then calls the manager of the center. Pro shop guy, I know you said he was bringing in a damaged ball, but did you tell him to keep bowling after you saw the damage? Manager, yeah, we couldn't move him, so I told him to just bowl out his games and you would fix it. Pro shop guy, I can't fix this. You're going to have to replace his ball. What? A bunch of arguing back and forth about why it can't be fixed. The ball I have they don't carry, etc. Fine, replace it with anything on the wall except for the Excalibur. The Excalibur was almost 50% more expensive than regular bowling balls. It was the first reactive resin ball on the market. Reactive resin is a compound that made the ball hook much more than a traditional urethane ball. It revolutionized the game and ruined it according to some, since it allowed average and below average bowlers to suddenly improve drastically due to not having to be anywhere near as accurate and took a lot of the skill from the game. But I digress. Me. So, I can pick any ball other than the Excalibur and you will pay for it? Drilling and all? Manager. Yes. Me. Okay, thanks. Manager leaves. Me. Can I have store credit for that ball on the wall, but then apply it to the Excalibur and I will pay the difference? Pro shop guy. Sure, we can do that. And proceeds to measure my hand and drills the ball, and I pay like $40 for what was then between a $150 to $200 ball that I could not have afforded at the time. Bowled my second ever 300 game with it less than a month later, and won 2 center tournaments with it, and a bunch of high game pot money during league play. That ball paid for itself 10x over in the first 2 months. Edit. This kind of blew up more than I thought it would. I was trying to reply to everyone, but it has gotten way more responses than I could have ever thought my stupid story about a bowling ball would have. So I just can't keep up. Thanks to everyone who liked my small bit of malicious compliance or replied or messaged me. Have you ever gone bowling before? And if so, do you like it or not? Please let us know. I only like bowling when I have bumpers. Am I the jerk for not paying half of my boyfriend's rent and bills? Gonna try and be brief here due to the character limit. My boyfriend, who's 26, and I, 24 female, have been dating for just over 2 years. We've never lived together. In September of 2020, my boyfriend took a job in a different city 2 hours away without asking me for my opinion or even telling me that he had applied for it. It was his dream job, and so not taking it was never an option, he said. He never asked me to move with him, but even if he had asked, I wouldn't have been able to. I live in the same town as my parents, who are both ill, and I wouldn't want to move away while they still need me. My job is also here. The city he's moving to is also nearly twice as expensive to rent in. This obviously caused some friction between us, and we nearly broke up over it, but ultimately, I agreed to visit him regularly. Since he moved, I've gone to visit him once or twice a month for a week at a time when lockdown allows it, and it's not cheap. The train to see him is about $50 each way. We don't live in the US, but that's the currency conversion rate. So I'm spending about $100 to $200 each month to see him, and I pay half of any grocery shopping we do. I also rent my own apartment back in my hometown. When I visit him, I stay at his apartment, where he lives alone and pays around $975 per month in rent. Edit, because apparently people don't get this. My job lets me work from home, so I work from his apartment. I don't take 2 weeks off of work every month. Last week, he told me that he wants me to start paying half his bills and half the rent for when I come to stay with him. Edit, I spend between 1 to 2 weeks there, so he's asked for half the bills and rent of those periods, not the total month. I told him that I wasn't okay with that for a few reasons. He's the one who chose to move to an expensive city without any of my input. I already pay $100 to $200 on train fares to see him, which he doesn't contribute to, and I have to pay for my own apartment. If I paid half his rent, my cost of living would be higher than his for a situation I didn't choose. He replied that it wasn't fair that his bills increased when I came to visit him because of the water, electricity, etc. So I told him that my train fare was the equivalent of that, and also much more expensive than just my portion of his water. So if he wanted me to pay half the bills, then he would have to pay half my train fare. This apparently wouldn't be fair, as he's not the one taking the train, so he shouldn't have to pay. At this point, I just told him that either he pays half my train fare, we both move somewhere that isn't stupidly expensive, or I stop visiting. He told me that I was being unwilling to compromise, and the atmosphere has been frosty ever since. I don't think I'm being unreasonable here, but I've spoken to a few friends about it, and the opinion seems pretty split, so I'm putting it to the Reddit hive mind. Edit. Oh wow, this blew up overnight. I didn't expect the overwhelming response to this. I'm half expecting my boyfriend to find this Reddit post now, but even if he doesn't, it looks like there really is only one way forward here. Thanks everyone for your input, advice, and judgment. Well, what do you think? Should OP be paying half of her boyfriend's bills or not? Please let us know. I think she should find a new boyfriend. Jim won't cancel me and makes me read my contract. So around July of last year, I'm coming up on the end of my contract for a big national gym chain that, let's just say, you can visit anytime. So I try and call and get directions to cancel and get a voicemail box that it's full. I call their 800 number and I'm told that only the local office can cancel me. I call my bank and ask if I can block auto debit, but because it is a check debit, they can only block a specific amount and there is a fee. I scan my contract and it says I have to cancel in writing with 30 days notice, regardless of my contract end date. I'm pretty furious at this point because the gym was closed completely due to lockdown and I was wasting money. I hadn't been too concerned while my contract was going, but now I just wanted to end my association with them. I write the letter with my membership number, email, and phone number, and send the letter certified with my fob. 2 months later, I notice I'm still being charged, and they have billed me an additional $60 for my annual access fee. Now I'm livid. I find the customer service email and explain the situation with specific dates of calls, letters, and attempted visits to the office. I ask that my membership be canceled and a refund for the past several months and the annual renewal. I receive a rather curt response saying they will start my cancellation, but I will have one more monthly charge because there is a 30-day notice. I respond asking them to read my message and see that is what I did already by mail. Apparently, the local manager has been letting mail pile up as they don't even have someone at the office part-time. No one has seen my letter. I say this to the email rep. They ask me to read my contract and state that even if I can demonstrate the letter was sent, I would still be on the hook for the 30 days and the annual fee. She says I need to read my contract if I have any questions, and I do. Turns out, near the end of this very long document, in section 20.1, it states the following: Unexpected events. We are not responsible if members cannot use our club because of an event caused by a natural force, or a road or building closure, or something similar beyond our reasonable control. If this continues for more than 30 days, then either you or we may cancel this agreement immediately by written notice. No fee will apply. So I respond with this new knowledge I have and point out that the gym had been closed 90 days prior to my original letter, and even greater than my email cancellation request. I also threaten the following if they don't refund me back to my original contract end date. 1. I will pay people I know to picket their gym. 2. I will hand out flyers telling people about this provision of their contract so others in the middle of contracts will be able to cancel without a fee. 3. I will publish an article in our local online newspaper about the trouble I have had offering advice to others. And I make it clear that I have all the documentation, including phone statements, to prove it's all true. 3 days later, I was called by a regional director with an apology and a full refund of over $240 that had been inappropriately taken and a little extra. For those wondering, I am sharing this now because I understand many people in California, where lockdown was more strict, have gone through this, and they deserve to know how not to be taken advantage of. And remember, if someone tells you to read your contract, do it. I still would have gone to the newspaper about this. It's just wrong how some companies rip people off. It is ridiculous that you charged us for this appetizer. This one time, an 8-top split the bill 4 ways, couples. I did the whole inform me of any discrepancies speech and build them out. 20% all around except one couple. The guy left me less than 10%, but no sweat, I wasn't bothered. 20 minutes after, I see the cheap tipper's wife on her way back into the restaurant, all geared up for a fight. It was getting quiet at this point, just a few tables. A great audience for what was about to occur. She storms in, pulls out the bill, and indignantly points out one of the appetizers, says that it was shared, and as such, her husband should not have been charged. She says, "It is ridiculous that we should pay for this." I was chilled. I immediately felt a huge wave of pity for the husband who she had clearly already gone off on in the parking lot for 15 minutes. I compose myself carefully, go all smiles and ask, "So, you want me to reopen the table, refund the card, then charge the card again for a different amount, and process the table again and have us eat the cost of the app?" Her. Yes. Me. Well, honestly, that's ridiculous. It's a lot of work, but I think I can make this right. As I pulled out my wallet, I tried to hand it to her. Me. Seems to me like we owe you some money. So, how much do you want? Her. What are you doing? Can't the restaurant cover it? Me. Sure, but I'm not gonna ask my boss to cover this one. The food was good, right? She nods. And until I messed up with the bill, service was good. She nods again. Okay, so it's my mistake. This is between me and you, so let me make it right. How much do you want? $20? $40? She starts looking really uncomfortable and mugging me all of a sudden. I fan out my float. It's not a lot. I was 23 and looked it too. Go ahead. What was that app? $13 plus tax and tip? Here, take 20 for now, and you've actually made a few dollars tonight, right? Is that enough? Do you want more? You can have my whole wallet. And I politely try to give her more. Shell-shocked, she slowly takes the 20 out of my hand and walks out of the restaurant, head hanging way down. Sometimes it's very clear what people want, and sometimes giving it to them makes them see what is really happening. A grown woman is leveraging her bad attitude and emotions to win one over on some kid, some business, anything at all. I would have paid $500 easily to never see her again. I got a good deal. I still am awestruck she had the gall to take it. Third worst customer of my life. Good luck to all of my fellow servers out there. It's a wild world. P.S. I was working at a small restaurant where my antics were well documented and occasionally appreciated. I wouldn't recommend this method somewhere corporate. $500 to never see her again? I'm gonna have to find OP and annoy them so I can make some money too. Apartment complex rented my apartment while I still had an active lease. Arkansas has well-known laws that lean heavily on the side of the property owner, which leaves the renter pretty vulnerable to owners who want to be difficult, to say the least. Or at least they did when I lived there. I doubt much has changed since. So I move into town and find a 2-2 apartment, intending for it to be a short period of time while I scout the town and look for a more permanent place. As for paying rent, they wouldn't/couldn't take an automatic monthly check from my bank or charge my debit card monthly. It had to be a paper check from me with a 4-day late fee window. I hate writing checks, and I had the cash, so I paid out the 12-month lease all at once. I find a great place about 6 months later, thinking I'll just break my lease and pay the extra 1-month penalty and walk away from my apartment. I call and let them know I'll be moving out. Long conversation short, the way the lease is written makes you think that's how it works, when in reality, at a second or third read, I'm still liable for the entire 12-month lease, and to break the lease essentially adds a 13-month worth of rent money. Knowing that up front, why anybody would break a lease is beyond me. So at this point, I've already made the deposit on my new place when all this comes to light, so I'm stuck with two places. I tell the apartment complex I won't be moving out. Figure I'll just go ahead and let the lease run out, set the AC to 80, and open the breakers to keep costs low. I slowly move my stuff to my new place since I have plenty of time now, and in the end, I leave behind my ironing board and iron just to leave something, and I never really use them anyways. About 2 months later, I get a call from the power company asking if it's okay to transfer power into someone else's name. Shocked, I reply, absolutely not, while laughing a little on the inside. I decide to give it a day before I call the apartment complex. First thing the next morning, I get a call from the apartment complex, and with a super snarky entitled tone, I hear, "We need you to drop the power from your name so the new tenant can take over and move in." I explain that I still have an active lease on the place and can't fathom why they'd rent it out. She accuses me of abandonment, and therefore she is allowed to rent the apartment. My reply went along the lines of, "I rent that apartment with the sole intent of having somewhere to iron my clothes. Did you not see the iron and ironing board there?" She said she did, and she took it to the office to get it out of the apartment. We go back and forth on the semantics for a little. I let her know that I'm open to receiving a refund to the date on the new tenant's lease, and at that time I'd be happy to drop my name from the power. She refused, and the call ended with getting her boss's number from corporate. After mentioning to her boss that I can recognize a breach of contract when I see it, and that nowhere in the lease does it say I actually have to live there, not to mention her employee admitted to entering my apartment and stealing items of mine from inside. She quickly assured me that they are putting a check in the mail that day, refunding my money to the first of that month, and told me I could go to the office to pick up my iron and board anytime. Yes, I know they could have run up the power bill, but they'd only be able to do so much really, and a few days isn't that huge, and they didn't do it anyways. Even if they had, it would still be worth the expense, considering the refund. Have you ever had problems with a landlord? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for laughing when my pastor/boss told me that I wasn't getting paid for organizing an event? I, 23, male, started working for my church this summer. It's a fairly small one and is coming short on money and really needed the extra hands right now. I turned down an internship at an accounting firm just to work here because they've helped me through so much. I was homeless before. The pay is absolute garbage and isn't even close to minimum wage, but I'm doing it because they are basically the only family I have. I do pretty general work, cleaning up the building, but what I mainly do is budgeting their finances. They asked me and some churchgoers to help out with planning a barbecue event to celebrate the Phase 2 reopening of Ontario. They asked me to find some money within the budget to make this happen and to also help out with grilling and cooking the food. I asked my pastor how the pay would work since I usually only work during the week. He straight up told me it was for God and that I shouldn't be expected to be paid on a Sunday. So essentially, he wants me to plan the whole thing, cook like 100 patties, set up the place we're going to, and do it all for free. I literally laughed in his face because I thought he was joking. He looked at me and I realized he was being completely serious. I told him he's crazy if he thinks I'm doing all of that for free, and he told me that being paid to work for the church is already a blessing enough. I quit on the spot, and now I'm being completely ostracized by the community. How can he be doing this after all the church has given to him? Wow, really shows his faith. Like, what the heck? Okay, I do admit I'm not the most faithful person, and I get that they've helped me out so much in the past, but I need to make a living too. I live in a garbage apartment and barely have enough to stay afloat. My pastor shot me a text the other day to give me another chance. Am I the jerk, or should I just do it? I feel like I'm kind of the jerk here, but at the same time, I don't think it's fair to be doing all of that for free. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you go ahead and do all of the work for free or not? Please let us know. I think I'd call that accounting firm and see if they still have a spot for me. Am I the jerk for getting a stranger's car towed? I bought and moved into an apartment about 5 months ago. The apartment comes with a parking space at the basement level. Every apartment has an allotted parking space. There's extra parking space outside, which you have to rent in case you have an additional vehicle. I don't drive, so I don't own a car. My space has been empty. I still own it. It's included with the apartment. So the situation. My brother decided to move to the city I live in. He was moving in with me for a while until he finds his own place. I honestly want him to stay with me for longer. Lockdown was tough, and I could use his company. He owns a car, and he was going to use my space. 3 days prior to his arrival, I noticed there was a car parked in my space. I asked the security, but he didn't know who it belonged to. So I posted a photo of the car in the group chat of our apartment complex, requesting the owner to remove it. There was no reply, and the next day the car was still there. I asked again, saying that I wanted to park my car there, which would arrive the next day. No reply. 2 hours before my brother arrived, the car was still there and I had received no messages. So I sent a final message saying that I would have the car towed if it isn't removed in an hour. I got a personal message from the owner claiming that they are pregnant and their husband is working, so they won't be able to remove their car in an hour. I said that it's not my fault and that I had given them enough time before it reached this point. I didn't get a reply again, so I assumed they would have moved their car. 2 hours later, when my brother arrived, the car was still there, so I just called the towing company and had it towed. Now I'm being blasted in the group, saying what I did was not very neighborly, and that I inconvenienced a pregnant woman, and that I should apologize and pay to get their car back. So, am I the jerk? ETA 1. As I mentioned in the comments, the husband works from home. 2. It's possible that the car was there for longer than 3 days, but not longer than a week. 3. I had also placed a complaint with the management the day before I towed it. Their words, "You should contact the owner." As if I hadn't tried that already. It's a fairly new complex. The apartment management is not really efficient yet. 4. I have kept all receipts in case someone decides to involve cops, lawyers, etc. 5. Unfortunately, a couple people are still coming at me in the group chat. I sent screenshots in the chat saying that I tried everything I could. The least they could have done is message me back after I sent the first message to try and figure something out. Some people supported me after that. I left the chat saying that they are all harassing me, which is not very neighborly either. I have screenshots of all of the exchanges up until I left the chat. 6. They have their allotted parking spot where the husband's car is parked. I think they parked the wife's car in my spot because it's closer to the elevator. To be honest, I would have gladly exchanged our spots if they had asked me, since I don't drive or own a car. Last but not least, thank you to everyone who took the time to read and reply. Thank you so much for the awards. I would have loved for you guys to be my neighbors instead. Well, what would you have done in this situation? Would you have had their car towed or not? Please let us know.
Absolutely I would have. Why on earth do they feel so entitled to your parking spot? I hope you go back into that group chat and share the link to your story on Reddit. All those horrible neighbors need to realize how stupid they are.
Lady picks on new guy for double scanning items. Upon inspection, he actually missed an item and her total went up. We have this one regular who likes to pick on new team members. She goes through the newest cashier if she can and always raises a stink until the manager, me, comes by to demolish her. She always leaves grumpy, so why does she keep shopping here? Who knows? So she goes through Jay's till today. He has been here for 2 weeks and is 1 week fresh on the register. He's doing great and so far has made every effort to understand the register, and he's been pretty independent. He scans through her items, asks about the club card, offers a bag, and announces her total. She then scoffs and says, "How can it be that much?" Jay then jovially tells her that the items can add up when you're in the zone, and repeats her total. She insists he scanned something twice, and not quite having faced a customer like this before, he calls me over for backup. After listening to her claim, I dutifully check each item's tag with the register's item list to satisfy her paranoid claim, all the while explaining to Jay how to handle a double-scanned item. Wow, what a surprise, ma'am. Nothing was scanned twice. However, it looks like Jay missed an item while scanning. Your new total is up by $15. Cash or card? This woman stared at Jay and I for at least 5 full silent seconds before she started apologizing and saying her English was bad and she didn't understand what we were saying. I explained what happened a couple different ways, ensuring there was no conflict of communication, and each time repeated her heightened total. Eventually, she gave up and paid the higher amount. She sulked on out of the store, claiming we always do this crap with her. Sorry, lady. Idiot tax is real. P.S. I did discuss with Jay to be a little more careful and steady at cash going forward to make sure he doesn't miss any more items, just in case this has been a recurring problem and not a one-off. I have high hopes for him going forward.
Huge shout out to our newest official channel member, Paula. Thank you so much for supporting our channel, it really means the world to us. Join as a channel member today and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video.
And come watch this video next. You are gonna love it.